Increasingly, the educators I speak with describe the following experience. For years, they saw familiar patterns in student submissions of work: strong arguments, weak conclusions, the occasional awkward phrasing, and those moments where a student's genuine voice emerged clearly through imperfect writing. But now something feels different. The grammar is polished, the structure is coherent, the transitions are smooth, and the citations appear correctly formatted. And yet, the professor hesitates. Did the student write this? Day after day, educators are encountering variations of this moment of hesitation, asking themselves, whose work am I grading? Generative AI systems can now produce almost anything that is assigned to students for graded work: essays, programming assignments, discussion posts, mathematical explanations, and even complex analytical responses within seconds. The technology is advancing rapidly, and the systems that are designed to ensure academic integrity remain imperfect, just as institutional policies evolve in order to keep up. But beneath the immediate concerns surrounding academic integrity lies a deeper educational question. For centuries, education operated in a world where answers were difficult to obtain. What happens when answers become abundant, instantaneous, and nearly free? Welcome to the EdTech Curio Cabinet. I'm Christina, and in each Curio, we explore the evolving world of education through 4 lenses: the artifact, a technology, practice, or idea shaping modern learning; the pattern, the historical forces surrounding it; the paradox, the tension hidden beneath the surface; and finally, the signal, a glimpse into where education may be heading next. In this Curio, we'll dig into the challenges that are right in front of us today: assessment in the age of generative artificial intelligence. Generative AI systems have introduced something historically unusual into education: near instant answer generation across an enormous range of disciplines. Students at almost any level can now request a draft of an essay that was intended to be synthesized after research and exploration, worked mathematical solutions that pull from foundational knowledge and procedural fluency, generated code, scientific explanations, and personalized study materials. Many outputs appear remarkably sophisticated, and these systems continue to improve rapidly. Educational institutions have responded in various ways. Some schools introduced AI detection tools. Others revised academic integrity policies. Some have temporarily returned to handwritten or oral assessments. And others have begun to experiment with AI-inclusive assignments designed around collaboration with intelligence systems. The speed of change has created understandable uncertainty, but it is worth remembering that educational assessment has always evolved alongside technology. Calculators changed mathematics assessment, internet access altered research assignments, and online learning environments transformed quiz delivery and feedback systems. Generative AI may present the latest and perhaps most disruptive chapter in this long history, because unlike previous tools, these systems can generate complete intellectual artifacts rather than merely assisting with isolated tasks. And that challenges some long-standing assumptions about how learning is measured. Looking back at educational history, assessment systems have proven remarkably stable. Even as classrooms adopted computers, projectors, LMS systems, and online content, many assessment structures remain deeply familiar. We continue to employ timed exams. Essays are still a common way to explore a student's understanding and ability to communicate what they have synthesized from broad swaths of information. We still use multiple choice tests and ask for written reports. And there are good reasons for this stability. Assessment carries enormous social importance. Its outcomes affect future life trajectories, and so education systems tend to change cautiously. This pattern appeared earlier in our series when we explored the persistence of traditional assessment models, despite technological advancement. And yet, history also shows that major technological shifts eventually influence evaluation systems themselves. The printing press altered scholarly examination. Calculators reshaped mathematical expectations. Digital research transformed citation practices. And so now, artificial intelligence may be forcing another reassessment, particularly because generative systems complicate a long-standing educational assumption that completed work reliably reflects independent cognitive effort. And this tension sits at the heart of the current moment. At first glance, AI-generated answers appear to threaten assessment itself. If machines can produce essays, explanations, and solutions quickly, how can educators evaluate student understanding reliably? The concern is understandable, but beneath it lies a more interesting paradox. As answer generation becomes easier, authentic thinking may become more valuable rather than less. Historically, education often emphasized the production of correct answers, partly because generating those answers required significant effort. Now, many forms of production can be partially automated, which shifts educational attention towards different dimensions of learning. Shifts towards reasoning, interpretation, judgment, creativity, collaboration, and contextual understanding. A student may generate an essay outline instantly using AI, but defending an argument verbally still requires understanding. Applying knowledge to unfamiliar context still requires reasoning, and collaborative problem solving still depends on human interaction. In other words, AI may be exposing a distinction that has existed all along: the difference between producing academic artifacts and developing intellectual capability. For decades, educators have debated whether grades truly measure learning. Critics have long argued that students often learn to optimize for performance rather than understanding, to earn points, complete assignments, and satisfy evaluation criteria, without necessarily developing deep mastery of the underlying concepts. In that sense, the tension between evidence of learning and learning itself is not new. What artificial intelligence changes is the visibility of that distinction. When a machine can generate an essay, solve a problem set, summarize a reading, or produce a plausible answer in seconds, the traditional academic artifact becomes a less reliable indicator of the thinking that produced it. AI is not creating the weakness in the measurement system, it's revealing it. The paradox is fascinating. Systems capable of generating answers may ultimately push education towards evaluating deeper forms of thinking: reasoning, judgment, problem framing, reflection, and the ability to apply knowledge in an unfamiliar context. Not because knowledge becomes irrelevant, but because abundant automation forces us to look more carefully at what we have actually been measuring all along. One of the most promising signals emerging from this moment is the growing creativity educators are bringing to assessment design. Around the world, instructors are experimenting with oral defenses, project-based learning, authentic simulations, reflective journals, live demonstrations, and process-oriented evaluation. Importantly, many educators are not simply resisting AI, they are exploring how intelligent systems might coexist with meaningful assessment. Some classrooms now allow AI systems while requiring students to explain how the tool was used, what decisions they made, what did they revise, and of course, why did they make those decisions? This begins shifting assessment away from simple output evaluation and towards intellectual process. And perhaps that evolution was already overdue, because real-world professional environments rarely isolate individuals from tools. Scientists use software, engineers use simulation systems, writers use editing technologies, and programmers use coding assistants. The educational challenge may increasingly evolve, helping students learn how to work thoughtfully, ethically, and competently alongside an intelligent system. And educators remain central to that future, because meaningful assessment has never been purely about catching mistakes. At its best, assessment helps reveal understanding. That purpose remains deeply human, even as technologies evolve. Assessment systems have always reflected the technological environment surrounding them. Artificial intelligence may now be accelerating a new period of reassessment. As answer generation becomes increasingly automated, educational systems may place greater emphasis on reasoning and process, judgment and application. And throughout this transition, one principle remains remarkably consistent: learning matters more than performance alone, because education has always concerned the development of human understanding. Assessment technologies continue to evolve alongside human learning, but the deeper goals of education remain remarkably persistent. That's why we keep the cabinet open. Thanks for exploring the EdTech Curio cabinet.